Well, 30 years ago tonight, people in Huntsville were dealing with the deadly aftermath of what we now call the Airport Road tornado.
Our meteorologists Jordan Bressman and Emily Owen take us back to the horrible day that changed our city.
Just looking at the sky and seeing how green it was, I have never seen the sky green like that before.
There was just a terrible wall of clouds.
But the damage was devastating on Airport Road. It was F4 damage, and by today's EF standards, it would still be an EF4 today.
It's just very scary, and it kind of leaves a mark on you.
Today we take a look back at one of the deadliest days in North Alabama weather history. Today acknowledges the 30th anniversary of the November 15th, 1989 Airport Road tornado. When the day was over, 21 were dead, 463 were injured, and there was over $250 million in damage.
The F4 tornado damaged 80 businesses, 3 churches, and more than 1,000 vehicles. The storm destroyed Jones Valley Elementary School and another 259 homes within the Jones Valley area.
The storm began its deadly path on Redstone Arsenal just after 4:30 p.m. and moved northeast towards the very busy Airport Road. In the heart of rush hour, given the timing of the storm, many were preparing to or had just left work. 12 of the 21 deaths occurred inside cars.
Despite a tornado watch having been in effect, the tornado actually came as a bit of a surprise.
I happened to be outside the building watching the storm pass by to the south. And I was talking to a student, and I was just pointing out, if you were to expect a tornado out of this storm, it would be in that direction, and I pointed to the south. But I had no idea that a tornado would actually form out of that storm.
One former Huntsville resident describes what she saw from her office at the Marshall Space Flight Center just before the tornado.
Just looking at the sky and seeing how green it was, I have never seen the sky green like that before. It was very frightening.
Sergeant Rick Nelson described similar sights moments before the tornado.
You could see the clouds, especially in that South Huntsville area there. It was bad enough where we were, but there was just a terrible wall of clouds.
After the tornado had passed, some of the damage seemed to defy logic.
Sticks that had been driven through brick walls, when you see slabs where houses were and there's nothing left, it's just very scary, and it kind of leaves a mark on you.
Aside from the unbelievable, the F4 tornado brought untold and near total devastation to the Airport Road area.
I can remember some of the things that stood out about working that night, aside from just how completely those buildings were flattened and how quickly it happened.
Destruction everywhere, the worst destruction I had ever seen, and it was worse than what I had seen in 1974.
It's one thing to think of the devastation that lay in the tornado's wake, but there are also the lives of the people that were forever changed.
I ran into some lady that apparently had been either in bed or in the shower or something, and she was barely dressed. I gave her we had Tuffy coats, and I gave her my Tuffy coat.
It wasn't just the residents whose lives were changed, but the first responders who saw the death and destruction firsthand.
Roger Dean was fairly early on the scene, and I remember him with a child that had been trapped under some of the rubble, and I remember him running this kid out to the ambulance, and I hated that I never found out if the child lived or not. I don't think he did.
Out of so much loss and tragedy, some good did come from this day, and we as meteorologists have better technology at our disposal for even more accurate forecasts.
We have so much more today with the next-red radar, Doppler radar, dual polarization capability. Now we can see the so-called direct, or the tornado debris signature, the TDS. If the tornado is close enough to the radar. So we have ways of directly detecting circulations, the parent circulation, the mesocyclone, as well as the a smaller scale and intense tornado circulation.
This remembrance site is built at the corner of Whitesburg and Airport Road to honor those who lost their lives, those who helped aid in the recovery efforts, and to those who responded.
These words still evoke memories for those who survived that day. From Psalm 27, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?"
Well, Jordan, that was a great piece. And you know, the three of us were not living here at that point, or we're not even born yet.
No.
I mean, what was it like hearing stories from people who experienced
You know,
it?
all three of these people offered such different perspectives. There was Dr. Knupp, who is a fantastic professor at UAH. He wrote a fantastic paper reviewing this tornado in 1993. Obviously, his view is from the meteorological end, how the tornado was actually a bit of a surprise without going too meteorologically into the explanation as to why. And then you had Sergeant Nelson, who was there, who was in the middle of it all. And then you had Miss Grubbs there. She went out a couple days later. A lot of the pictures that you saw in that story were actually thanks to her. She took those pictures a few days later. And so it was very interesting to get all three of their perspectives, because they were all very different of the exact same event, but it kind of changed them all in the same way.
Yeah.
Very, very good job with it, by the way.